Today, we're diving into the story of a lesser known but incredibly impactful figure in the Old Testament, Mephibosheth. You might not know his name off the top of your head, but trust me, his story is packed with lessons that can shift the way you think about grace, humility, and overcoming your personal limitations. So let's dive in by answering the question, who was Mephibosheth? He was the son of Jonathan, King David's closest friend and the grandson of King Saul. But his life took a tragic turn early on, as we find out in 2 Samuel chapter 4. At the tender age of 5, Mephibosheth's nurse fled with him upon hearing about the deaths of his father and grandfather. In their haste, Mephibosheth fell, and the Bible says he became crippled in both feet. Fast forward a few years later, we find him living in Lodabar, a place associated with desolation and barrenness. He had every reason to feel forgotten and unworthy, but God wasn't done with his story. In 2 Samuel chapter 9, we see one of the most amazing displays of grace in the Bible. So let's take a look. 2 Samuel chapter 9, verses 1 through 7 in the New Living Translation. One day David asked, "Is anyone in Saul's family still alive? Anyone to whom I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake?" He summoned a man named Ziba, who had been one of Saul's servants. "Are you Ziba?" the king asked. "Yes, sir, I am," Ziba replied. The king then asked him, "Is anyone still alive from Saul's family? If so, I want to show God's kindness to them." Ziba replied, "Yes. One of Jonathan's sons is still alive. He is crippled in both feet." "Where is he?" asked the king. "In Lodabar," Ziba told him, "at the home of Machir, son of Amiel." So David sent for him and brought him from Machir's home. His name was Mephibosheth. He was Jonathan's son and Saul's grandson. When it came to David, he bowed down low to the ground in deep respect. David said, "Greetings, Mephibosheth." Mephibosheth replied, "I am your servant." "Don't be afraid," David said. "I intend to show kindness to you because of my promise to your father, Jonathan. I will give you all the property that once belonged to your grandfather Saul, and you will eat here with me at the king's table." We see in the text, David, now king, remembers the covenant he had made with Jonathan and seeks out anyone from Saul's house to show kindness. Enter Mephibosheth. Imagine being summoned to the palace of the king, who had every right, culturally speaking, to see you as a threat to his throne. Instead of condemnation, Mephibosheth is met with kindness. David restores Saul's land to him and grants him a permanent place at the king's table. Let's look at 3 lessons from the story of Mephibosheth. Lesson 1. Grace beyond merit. Mephibosheth didn't earn his place at David's table. In fact, from a worldly perspective, he brought nothing to the table. But that's the beauty of grace. It's undeserved. David's kindness reflects God's grace towards us. How often do we feel unworthy of God's love, thinking we need to earn it? The truth is, just like Mephibosheth, we're invited to sit at the table because of who Jesus is, not because of anything we've done. Lesson 2, embracing humility. Mephibosheth says something interesting in verse 8. He bowed respectfully and exclaimed, "Who is your servant that you should show kindness to a dead dog like me?" When Mephibosheth meets David, he refers to himself as a dead dog. Now, that might sound like extreme low self-esteem, but actually, it shows his humility. He understood his position, not in a self-loathing way, but in a way that allowed him to fully receive the grace offered to him. Sometimes our pride gets in the way of receiving help, forgiveness, or even opportunities. Let's take a moment to reflect. Where in your life could humility open doors you didn't even know were possible? Lesson 3, overcoming limitations. Mephibosheth's story didn't end in Lodabar. His physical disability and his past didn't define his future. David's invitation transformed his life from obscurity to honor. Here's the takeaway. Your current circumstances, no matter how limiting they feel, don't have to define your destiny. Let me ask you this. What's your low bar? Is it fear, doubt, or circumstances beyond your control? How might God be calling you out of it today? Now let's zoom out and think philosophically for a moment. Mephibosheth's story challenges us to examine our self-perception. Are the limitations you face real, or are they constructs of your own mind? As philosopher John Dewey once said, reflection leads to personal growth. Maybe it's time to reflect on what's truly holding you back. Is it external circumstances, or is it how you see yourself? Here's the challenge for you. Take 5 minutes today to journal about one area in your life where you feel limited. Then pray and ask God what steps you can take to move forward, even if the steps are small. Mephibosheth's story ultimately points us back to Jesus, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Just as David invited Mephibosheth to his table, Jesus invites us to sit at his table. The question is, will you take your seat? Thanks for watching. If this video encouraged you, don't forget to like, comment, and share it with somebody who might need this reminder of God's grace. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for more biblical insights like this one. God's grace is bigger than your limitations. See you in the next video.